Hello there, welcome to another week in my garden. Now today it's a beautiful sunny day, but we've got a terrible east wind blowing today, so any disruption on the sound, please bear with me a little. Now I'm here in front of the shed under the grapevine. We'll just see how the grapevine has survived that bad weather last week. I think it's going to be alright. I've had a quick look round and it's showing flower and got fruiting buds coming all over it, so I'm well pleased with that. We've got leaves on the full vine. Normally towards the end of the vine it'll die back a little bit, but these have been fine this year. I don't know how it's managed to get through, because at one stage there was hailstones actually settling on it, and we've had some really bad weather, but it's got through, so well done the vine. So I'll just show you how it is. You can see here's the flowers coming now. Can you see them? There they are, look. These will actually be the fruit. These will be the grapes. Another blank bunch here, look. But if we go through it, the whole, there's your flower and the new leaves coming, look. Very nice. And again here, look. This is at the bottom of the vine. Now we'll go and check the main part, which is in the furthest away from the root, and we'll see how that end's doing. Now this is the extreme away from the root of the vine, and as you can see the little buds are bursting now, showing good leaf. There's no leaf kill from this wind, so they're fine. I thought this end was actually dead, but as you see there's a little bud coming through there, another leaf actually coming on there, and that is as far away as possible. From here back it gets thicker and thicker, obviously towards the root, so that shows that there is sap running in these. We've pruned it correctly and everything's actually looking good. Now fingers crossed we don't want no more big frosts on this now. We're going to go down to bed A, which is a brassica bed, and we need to plant up the last of the mesh tunnels so we can get that done hopefully, and then I'll have to try and water it today because it's so dry. So let's go and have a look. Here we are on the bed A brassica bed. There's 3 cauliflowers left from the winter cauliflowers just to harvest, and this will empty the last mesh tunnel for us to plant up for this year. Right, there's the first one. Lovely cauliflower, that one. Let's do the others. We just trim them off. Best to. I think the cauliflower's feeling the effects of the drought at the moment. They really are. These leaves are so soft. So the best, a nice one. Yellowed a little bit in the sun, but that's fine. And the last one. And then we just trim that off. Just take those off a little bit, look, for you. There you can see them. They are lovely little cauliflower, that is. Right, that's the last 3 of our winter cauliflowers for this year. Very nice. They have been absolutely delicious, I can assure you. They really have done well. Now the bed is empty. I'm going to prepare it, and then we're going to plant it up like we've planted the other 2 mesh tunnels, so we've got continuity of crops for the year. We're down at the brassica bed and we've harvested the cauliflowers. I've given it a real deep raking. I haven't dug it at all because I don't want to loosen this soil. It was dug last autumn, and that's all the digging it gets for brassicas, because it must be hard underfoot for them. Now I've given it a good raking, as I said, and I've put in another light dressing of lime and some fish blood and bone and rake that into the surface. And now I put in 2 lines of Brussels. These are 2 lines of Brussels sprouts that are planted first. Now I'm going to put in an interplant with calabrese, some late cabbages. I've put early cabbages in these beds, so you don't want a lot of early cabbage. So we want a late cabbage, some late calabrese, and a little bit of kale just for the chickens. We'll put that in, and we'll finish up with a line on the edge here of some red cabbage. I'll get this planting finished before it gets too cold down here, and then we'll probably nip down to the potato bed and interplant some radish and some onions, but I think we might have to do that tomorrow because it's getting a bit cold. Okay, hello there. Friday today. Now we've still got this east wind blowing. It's a very, very cold wind, and it really is drying the garden out. So the noise is terrible and the wind's cutting, but we'll get on. So now I've planted up all the brassicas. Bed B is now completely planted. Some of it still needs a watering, but I'll do that later. And then there's enough brassicas in here now. I will take you through it to take us right up to Christmas. So we'll just show you what we've got, and I'll try and point out what's actually in these beds. Right, so we have 2 lines of Brussels. Remember, the Brussels will be the last ones in these mesh tunnels for Christmas time. Then we've got the summer cabbages down the sides, and the summer cauliflowers down that side. Then down the middle, I don't know if you can see it, but there's 1 or 2 lettuce in there to come on. And I've also this year put some marigolds in there to try and keep the whitefly off a little bit. So as the year progresses, each one will come available like we did last year, and we'll just finish up with the Brussels. This is the second tunnel I planted. I did it very similar, but always starting with the Brussels in the 2 rows so we can build it from there. But I put a row of kohlrabi in there as well, because last year we planted it and the pigeons absolutely annihilated it. It is a brassica plant, so that's gone in, but they won't be in there long. So I've actually put some autumn broccoli in here as well, and some autumn cabbages, so they'll follow the summer cabbages. So we'll have a continuity of produce right the way out of these mesh tunnels. The mesh tunnels are doing lovely. As you can see, it's keeping this east wind off the plants. It's perhaps drying them out a bit quick, but then again it will rain at some stage. This is the last one. We planted this up yesterday. I started again with 2 rows of Brussels, and then I planted the flanks this time with the autumn broccoli and the red cabbages down that side as well, and a few cauliflowers I had left. Summer collies I put in there. Now the next year's spring cauliflowers and next year's spring cabbage, I haven't set the seed yet. When I do set that seed, I shall use the bed to grow those, what we're actually growing the new potatoes in now. I'll line that down, put a mesh tunnel up, and we'll grow those through the winter. We've just popped into the fruit cage. It's a tight mesh, but it doesn't stop much of the wind. I've got a little bit of space here, so I've decided I'm going to put some dwarf French beans in. The Ferrari, I got them from Brown's. I'll just show you them. This is the space that I've got here. I've just raked the surface down, and I've put some water on it just to hold the seeds down and start them wetting them. Then when they're in, I'll just cover them up with some compost. I shall wet it again and then rake the soil over the top to keep the compost down. It would be no good trying to dig it now, the soil is so dry. Although this heavy soil, as soon as you get through the dry hard top, it's nice and moist underneath, so once the plants can get through, they're fine. The other thing I was going to mention, I had some celeriac plants that I started a bit early, so they was getting quite big, so I've actually popped them into the fruit cage. If I put them down on the rows, I didn't know then, but the wind would have ripped them to pieces. Eventually, when these fruit bushes really get to their full height, you won't be able to plant anything down this side, but it was a bit of space, so I thought we'd pop them in. I'm just going to broadcast them into this wide drill, and then, as I say, we'll cover them. Just, if it doesn't make a full row, then that's fine. Oops, one jumped out. That's a jumping bean, that one. Hit him. We'll cover them up and wet them. With the weather being so dry, you must wet all your trenches before you put your seed in there. I've got a bit of old fine compost here I thought I'd use. It'll also get rid of it because it won't go to waste in here. And I'm not going to cover by a lot, but just enough to hold that moisture in when I put the soil on top. Any of your seeds you're setting now, if you pop a bit of good compost, especially if it's a bit fine with the seed, it'll just hold the moisture around the seed for you while they germinate. That's it, just a little bit, just to keep that top a bit moist. Now I'll just wet it and then we'll rake over, put the label in, we water them. I just fetched this out of the tank a week ago. I had 1,000 litres of water, and now I've got about 20 litres left. That's how much water we're using at the moment. We need some rain. Up on the back. That's enough. Now these French beans are notoriously slow for germinating anyway. As you can see, the soil's about the best you can get. It's full of stones and all sorts of rubbish, but they'll be alright. Just lightly chomp it, and then we'll give it a drink and then put the label in. That's the lot. We'll give them a drink on top, and that will do these. You've got to give them quite a bit. We've put 2 gallons in there. If you don't put a lot of water in, it will just dry off with the wind and be gone. Well, that's the French beans in. They'll only get to 2, maybe 3 feet high, so I'll just put a low wire on them. So now we were going to plant a catch crop of spring onion and radish between the potato rows today, but it's so windy and exposed down there that if we open the seed packet, I'm afraid we'll broadcast them everywhere. So we'll do that later when the winds drop down a bit. I should put them in exactly the same as we just put these peas in. I should put some compost in first. Well, I should wet the soil first, bit of compost, put the seed on, then put a bit of soil on top, then wet it down again, exactly the same. And in the ridges between the potatoes, it's lovely and warm right in the bottom. They'll germinate in no time at all. So we'll go up the garden now and out the wind a bit, and we'll show you how we're getting on with the frame for the squashes. Right, we've come up to the top of the garden where the lawn is and the chickens, and we thought it'd be out the wind a bit, but it's still quite windy up here. Now, I've been making a frame, as I said, for the squashes. Nothing too professional as I do. This is the frame I've built for the squashes. Now it's just tile lats and timbers. These are the lengths they come in, the width of them. So all I've done is nailed 4 together and then put the tile lats in as a framework in between. They're 8 3/4 the squares, which I thought looked nice, so that'll be fine. There's a good 2-foot piece there to go in the ground to hold it up. I shall make 2 of these the same, 1 for each side, and I shall make 1 without the leg on to put up as a roof, if you like, atop. So we've got like a tunnel for them to grow in. To get those all at 8 3/4 to balance upwards, it balanced up nicely, but on the length of it, there was, right, it came here, so instead of that I just put that one in the middle, but I follow it right through across the top piece and the other side, so it'll all match up nicely. But a good frame. It was tannalized timber, so it's going to last a good few years, and as soon as we finish with it, we'll pull it out the ground and put it in the stable block at the bottom for overwinter, and it'll be fine. That's for the pumpkins and the squashes. We'll take this down the garden and get it put up. As you can see, my 2 assistants are now waiting for their tea. And the chicken's struggling with the wind as well, look. Solomon's seal is coming into flower now. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, if Gemma, the flower ranger, knew, or if she's got a job on this week and she knew we had these, she'll be here to fetch these. These are very, very nice plants. They do like the shade, and if you can remember, we put some of these in a pot and they're flowering as well. They're at the side of the house at the moment. Right, it's Friday today, so that would be about it for this week from a very, very windy, cold garden. Although when the wind doesn't blow, it gets quite warm, so my coat's on and off all day today. So that'll be about it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye now.